What if, as you were having a cup of coffee in the morning, you were confronted with an incredible opportunity to save a life? Today, we're going to be sitting down with my dear brother, Randy, a business leader, a preacher, teacher, a former person in the political space, but a leader who was confronted with that kind of opportunity. We're going to sit down today and talk about an issue that faces more than 1 billion people around the world, and a movement that he has to see 100,000 people change history for men and women across the nation. Looking forward to this conversation on today's History Makers Leadership Podcast. So May 5th, man, big day, exciting moment.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit of like what's happening on this day.
May 5th is, and I just found this out about 4 hours ago.
Uh,
May 5th is transplant number 14. May 28th is transplant number 15.
you are kidding me.
Yeah.
Man, I never would have imagined that this whole transplant community was as big as it is. Like in terms of the need, right? Like what's the ratio? Is it like 10 a day that are needed?
Well, it's closer to, depending on what your source is, anywhere between 13 and 20 people die every day waiting on a kidney. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
my.
One out of 7 people worldwide have chronic kidney disease, about 38 million in the United States alone. And 9 out of 10 don't know they have it. And so once you get far enough along, a lot of people aren't tested for that.
No kidding.
And once you find out for too many, you're facing dialysis.
Okay.
And then once you get to that point, there's only 2 ways to get off of dialysis: is you either find a donor,
Mhm.
living or deceased. Living is much better,
Okay.
or you pass away.
Randy, this is insane to me. How I mean, look, I've been in a number of different hospitals and doctors' offices. My family's got some medical things. My parents had some medical things. I had no idea that the kidney transplant need was anywhere near this high, or that this process was as revolutionized or revolutionary as you've described it to be. So I want to introduce the listeners here a little bit to you, Randy. At the History Makers Leadership Podcast, we're going to walk with Christian leaders around the world, and I think there's an opportunity for us to kind of help make them aware of some of what we're talking about here.
Sure.
Tell us just a little bit from the beginning. How did you come to learn some of this of the need for kidneys? What has that looked like? How did God kind of put you into this spot?
Well,
Where we find ourselves now.
it's a pretty incredible story,
Yeah.
because like everyone else, I knew nothing about this silent crisis that we have, and until about 4 years ago now.
Okay.
And I've been a pastor for 10 years.
Uh-huh.
One of my lifelong dreams was to hike the Appalachian Trail. And so I had an opportunity to be one of 2 Appalachian Trail chaplains appointed by the UMC at that time to hike the Appalachian Trail back in 22.
Okay.
So my church was gracious enough to give me a 6-month sabbatical, and I was hiking the trail about 2,200 miles, and I was, getting an opportunity just to be a follower of Christ along the way, and be a witness, be a friend, and preach at a few churches along the journey. And so I started January 1st of 22.
Okay.
And so I don't recommend hiking in the mountains in January. It was cold.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I made it about 100 miles, and things were going great. And then a blizzard came in. I was in North Carolina.
Okay.
A blizzard came in, a big blizzard,
Yeah.
a couple of feet of snow and single-digit temperatures. And so everyone on the trail got off for that to thaw out some. While I was at home, I got jury duty, and then I was appointed to a jury. And then things at work and church. I'm bivocational. I'm also a utility contractor. So,
That's right. That's right.
And so things changed at work and church, and I was not able to go back on trail. But I'd been asked to serve on a women's retreat called Walk to Emmaus.
Okay. Yeah.
It's based on Luke 24.
Yep.
And so I had to turn that down. I mean, it was a life-changing experience when I went through as a pilgrim 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And so every opportunity I get to go back and serve as one of the clergy, I take advantage of that. And I had done it probably 25 or 30 times.
Wow.
So it's a wonderful retreat, and this was a women's retreat. And a very good friend of mine, Judy Rainey, was going to be the lay director. So she asked me to do it, but it was in March of that year, so I had to turn it down.
Yeah.
But now that I'm back off of trail, I reached out and said, "Hey, I'm still available if you need me for anything."
Sure.
And she said, "Well, I still need a head spiritual director. Would you do it?"
Mm.
So I said, "Yeah, I'll be glad to." And a little disappointed. God, why did you open these doors of opportunity?
Yeah.
It had turned into a ministry. A lot of people were following it on social media,
Wow.
and now it's gone.
Yeah.
So what's up with that? And but I learned through this process, just step through the doors of opportunity that He gives us, and not plan out your own path,
Yeah.
but just say, "How can I serve now? You guide me.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
light my path." And but I wasn't feeling that at that time, and so that retreat runs from a Thursday night through a Sunday night.
Okay.
And my normal routine is I'm a very early riser. So by 5 in the morning, I'm in the kitchen getting a cup of coffee, planning out my day in the conference room. And so I'm getting my cup of coffee the first morning on Friday morning. And I'm in the kitchen. It's sort of a horseshoe-shaped kitchen with swinging doors on both sides.
Okay.
So the coffee's on one side, and you can't see the other side. And I hear voices. And I'm thinking, oh no, it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm on a women's retreat. They may be in their PJs.
Oh no.
I'm gonna exit stage
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
and actually stage left. And and so I get my coffee, and I can't tell what they're saying, but then the lady's voice elevates a little bit, and I hear her say, she's talking to her mom and to her daughter. She said, "We just have to pray we can find somebody that's O positive, that's willing to give up a body part. But how do you ask somebody for a body part?" And I just froze. I knew from my time in the military that I was O positive.
Okay.
And I just had this overwhelming sensation of, this is why I brought you home.
Mm.
And so I stepped around the corner, scared them,
Yeah, of course.
and I said, I'm O positive. Well, her husband, about a year earlier, had a cardiac event. He was thought he was a healthy man. He had diabetes, but he had his own retaining wall business. And she was an executive at UPS, and so they had a good, strong, faith-based relationship. And then that happened. He coded 3 times over the weekend. They told her to call in the family, but he survived. But through that process, the doctors found out that the reason that he had the cardiac event was because of the fluid buildup, because his kidneys were in stage 5 renal failure. And they told them through that process, you're going to have to find a donor. He probably has less than 2 years to live. The challenge that most people don't realize is there's around 100,000 people on the kidney transplant wait list. There's actually there's a couple of hundred transplant wait lists. Every transplant center has a wait list. Wow. And so, you're on the wait list of whatever hospital you are able to attach to. And in his particular case, in his demographic, he was looking at a 6 to 8 year wait. And he had less than a couple of years to try to find a donor. And so they're overwhelmed with, now he's on dialysis 3 times a day. He's recovering from dialysis in between. And on their own, they have to find a donor. And that's a hard ask.
Yeah.
And so when I stepped around the corner, there was, I'm sure, a glimmer of hope there, but also, who is this stranger? Is he really going to give up an organ? For me, it was an easy decision. I don't know why.
Yeah.
So we prayed. We went in the chapel and we prayed about it together, and then we started the process to learn. And that's when I learned about all of this massive need. And but I still had a feeling I was being convicted about this for a reason. Well, then through the process, I found out that if you've had a blood transfusion, it makes it very difficult to match. Even though we were the same blood type, you have tissue matches, all these different markers, all these different health concerns.
Sure.
Based on the camera angle, the audience can tell I probably need to drop a few pounds. And so they told me I needed to lose about 20 pounds in order to donate. And so I started this a few months long process. The hospital was great. It was Piedmont in Atlanta.
Okay. Yeah.
And so, but they said it's almost impossible for you to match because you both have had blood transfusions. And so it sort of randomizes what's called your HLA.
Okay.
But then they exposed me to this thing called pledge, or a paired exchange. And they said, if you're willing to donate, you can put him down as the potential recipient. Your kidney would go to someone else that you do match with, and then he would be elevated and likely get a kidney within weeks and maybe even days or months. Wow. But he'll be moved up to the top of the list. And so I said, well, great, that saves 2 lives.
Yeah.
And so let's do that. And so That was March when that process started, and August 8th, and I still hadn't met him at this point. August 8th, I went in for my full day of testing, and he went in August 9th, and I had lost the weight by then, and he had to take care of a few things as well. A few days later, maybe a week later, Piedmont called me up, and they said, "We have never seen this before, ever. But it's as if you've had his kidney in your body the last 54 years.
Oh,
You're a
my word.
perfect match." So I met him a week before the surgery. The surgery was September 30th. And 7 days later, this is not an exaggeration, I went to the gym. Now, I got lightheaded doing calf raises, but I was there. I felt well enough to drive. I was off the pain medication. They literally took the kidney out through my belly button, and I have a very minimal scar. You can't even see it. And within 6 weeks, I felt totally normal. But that's how I was exposed to how great this need is and what the process is now to donate a kidney. And so there's just so much misinformation or lack of information out there. I was so excited. You know, sort of like when I went in the ministry. You know, like I said, I've been a pastor 10 years, and when you have this realization, this breakthrough epiphany that all this Jesus stuff is real, once you make that decision and that surrender, I think that, you know, that God just sort of fills you with that blessing. And then you're so excited and passionate about sharing that with other people. And that's the way I felt about this as well, is there's this huge need with a solution that, and Russell, we're brothers for life now.
Yeah.
He's doing great.
No kidding.
And yeah, he's doing great. And that's the story I hear. I had a friend call me yesterday, actually. He's 82 years old now, and he just celebrated his 26th anniversary, or in June is celebrating his 26th anniversary of his kidney transplant.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's a cure, you know?
Man, so my mind is just reeling from this, Randy, because, man, I know as a leader, I've been in a spot where, okay, God, you've got me on this trek, you've got me on this trail. I think I know where I'm going, and all of a sudden, diversion, or what I thought was a diversion.
Yeah.
Right. What I thought was a season off the trail, but that I would return to the trail, would turn into something completely different. And for God to bring you to that gathering, have you getting that cup of coffee in the morning, and just impress upon your heart, man, this is an opportunity to step in. This is something where I'm calling you to have an eye and an attention. And I'll be honest, again, I when, you know, off mics, even before all this stuff began, when you came and just shared with our team what God's doing in your life and in the midst of all of this experience, this is kind of an initiating moment, but it brought to my mind a whole world of things that I never even really considered. It never dawned on me the incredible need and the opportunity. And I know the history of our faith is one where Christians have regularly been engaged in medical intervention for people that otherwise we're helpless, we're hopeless, we're missing, right? I mean, Jesus went and healed, and by God's grace, we pray over those instances even today, but we also have an opportunity to engage in that through the other means that God has given us here. And so to hear your story of, hey, it was clear that God, I love that the doctor's like, I mean, it's like you've got his kidney in your body. Like, how incredible. Okay, so you go through what sounds like a pretty life-transforming experience. Not life-transforming in that, like, you don't have any extra medicines or anything now, right? Like, you're...
No. I can't take NSAIDs. So that means if I have a headache, I take Tylenol instead of ibuprofen.
Sure.
Other than that, there is absolutely no restrictions. And within a month and a half after the surgery, I felt like I do right now. Probably a little better.
Man. So essentially... no negative ramifications after all of this. And all of a sudden, man, you've literally saved a man's life.
Well, God did through me.
I mean, right.
Yes.
Right.
No, but yes, that was the net result. Yeah.
That's insane. Okay. All right. So,
but let me say this.
Yeah. Come on.
I want to make sure it's clear that there have been so many times in my life when God has called me to do things and I have not been obedient. So this is the type of ripple effect that occurs the time that I was. So that has encouraged me to be so much more aware of what God can do through us when we are obedient, instead of just ignoring the calls that He has in our life. So there's nothing special about me. That time I chose to be obedient, and it has turned into more than I ever could have imagined.
Well, let's unpack that a little bit, right?
Okay.
There's two ripples in that I want to look at, right?
Okay.
And we'll start with the first. End the wait.
Yes.
Tell me about this first ripple. What is it? And where's it going?
Okay. Wow, that's a long.
I
That's
know,
a
that's a
lot.
big one.
So hang on your britches here.
Kick us in, man.
Okay, so about 6 weeks after the surgery,
Yep.
a local pastor here in Carrollton, reached out to me and he said, "Man, you're the only person on the planet that would have matched him. You weren't even supposed to be at this retreat. There's so many God things that happen. Would you come share your testimony with our men's group at our church?"
Sure.
So they were having a breakfast on a Saturday morning in November, and I went and shared. There were about 30 men there, and I shared about a 30-minute testimony and how it changed me, and and how seamless the process was for me, and the impact that it had on Russell and his family, his community.
Wow.
And so I shared all that with him, and at the end we had a Q&A, and one of the guys asked me, he said, "You seem completely fine now, so I'm curious, would you do it again?"
Yeah.
And I had the same sentiment that I've heard from every single donor, and I've met a lot in the last 3 years. But it's the same sentiment. I answered it kind of a funny way, but I said, if I had 200 kidneys in my body, I'd do it 199 more times starting tomorrow, because it changes you when you're the vessel through which God gives someone life.
Amen.
It was a very spiritual experience for me, a transformational spiritual experience. And so after that meeting, 2 of those 30 men came up to me and they said, "I had no idea. I'm blown away by the need and the ability to fix this. How do I do it?"
Yeah.
And I said, "How do you do what?" And he said, how do I donate a kidney?"
Wow.
Yeah, that was my response. And then about 2 or 3 weeks later, I had an opportunity to speak at a Kiwanis Club, a small gathering in Bowden, Georgia.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened. A lady approached me and she said, "What do I need to do? What's the age limit? I'm interested in donating a kidney."
Wow.
So driving home from that Kiwanis meeting that night, I got to thinking, I know there's 100,000 people in this country that would do what I did if they knew, if they were educated on what the process was and how great the need was. But how do you get the word out in a way that inspires people to action? Not a documentary,
Right.
not statistics, not just the lack of information that's out there, but something that moves people. What has made the difference in these two situations? And it was the personal testimony. It was sharing the story. And then
That's
it hit me. 26 years ago, my 2-year-old son disappeared, and he was missing for about 8 hours.
Yeah.
This entire community came together and they helped find him. And I was a workaholic dad. I was a very superficial Christian. I was not a good father and a good husband, even though I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah.
Because I was checked out. I was working.
Yeah.
I was even at church. It was about programs and not a real relationship with the Lord. And until that day. And when I was faced with losing my child, all of my priorities were straightened out. It was my eating out of the pig trough moment.
Yeah, man.
And so about 8 years later, some filmmakers came to our town to do a movie, and I was county commissioner at that time.
Okay.
And so I spent the day with them, and it was really cool. A couple of Hollywood people coming out to make a movie in our little rural town. And so spent the day with them, and they said, "You don't seem like a politician." I said, "Thank you." And they said, "How'd you get involved in politics?" And I told them I will never be able to repay our community for what they did for my family.
Wow.
And so I shared with them how it changed my priorities and my life and all that. And about a year later, they approached me about making a movie about that experience. And we were very opposed to it to start with because I wasn't a good husband. I wasn't a good father. I really didn't want other people to know that.
Yeah.
For my wife, it was a horrible moment for her as a mother.
Yeah. I mean,
even though I was the one that lost him, I was the one that was supposed to be watching and not her.
But
it was a tough experience for us to, potentially have to relive.
who wants to put like a low moment in their life out in front? Wow.
But here's what we realized, Daniel. God was the orchestrator of that. He was the architect of that moment. That was a means of grace.
Amen.
To bring me back to the Lord, to bring me back on path. And so He owned that moment. And who are we not to share that if other people can learn from our experiences? Amen. So we agreed to do it. Lionsgate released that. That movie is called The Way Home. And here we are, 50. It was released in 2010.
Okay.
So it's been 16 years. It's still on Amazon Prime. It's still on YouTube. It's still on Tubi, all these other platforms. Tens of millions of people have seen it. People still reach out to us today all the time about seeing that and how it's impacted their priorities. And so I thought, what if we made another movie? We opened a nonprofit and we made a bigger movie, and we got it in theaters across the country, and we got this need about kidney transplants out in front of everybody. And we got in front of 100 million people. And then we take the proceeds from the movie, put it back into the foundation, partner up with other organizations, and just make this a news story that it should be. Boots on the ground, go find 100,000 donors. And I thought, if we can get in front of 100 million people, then all we would need is 1 out of 1,000 to say, I can do what that guy did. And if we did that, then we would end the wait. So that's where I came up with the name. And that was a fleeting thought. And then my next thought, implanted by the enemy, was, that's way too big. You're a local pastor and you're a ditch digger. So just stick with that and don't, this is way too big. So I kind of put it in my pocket for a couple of months.
Okay.
And didn't really, but it wouldn't go away. That vision wouldn't go away. And so Dean Cain played me in the first movie.
Okay.
And,
Dean Cain.
Yep.
What else have I seen him in?
He was Superman in Lois and Clark.
Okay. Yeah.
And Ripley's Believe It or Not. He hosted that. Yeah.
Okay.
And he's
Okay.
done about 200 movies since then.
Hey, man, that's a good looking actor to play you. Good for
well,
you.
John Goodman wasn't available, so
I
had to settle for Dean Cain.
I mean, hey, look, there you go.
But,
so is Dean connected to this at all? I mean,
so he is. So I ended up reaching out through another person. I hadn't spoken with him in 12 years or more.
Yeah, sure.
So I reached out I was able to make contact to him and Lori Beth Sykes that played my wife in the first movie. And we reached out to both of them and explained this vision. That led to a meeting in June of 23 up in West Virginia. We spent about 3 days interacting with the two of them, my wife and I, Crystal and I did. And as a result of those 3 days, Dean said, no one's ever done anything like this before. You're talking about making a movie whose sole purpose is to save 100,000 lives. I'm all in. Wow. So we actually had a board of directors meeting with our nonprofit yesterday. Dean and Lori Beth are both on our board of directors, and they have been instrumental. So not only is Dean on the board of directors, he directed the movie. He was able to call in favors, a lot of his friends that engaged in our project, and it has turned the movie is so good. They did such an incredible job. I put a little pressure on them.
Yeah.
I said, just want you to know your performance may determine how many lives are saved. So no pressure. Of course, they laughed about that, but they all understood that the power of this story and this message. And it's a phenomenal script, and they didn't cut any corners making the movie. So we had investors that were willing to take way less of a percentage. The filmmakers took way less than normal so that the foundation can mostly benefit from the proceeds.
Yeah.
But what we didn't realize is that God would expand this vision to the point that the movie itself, instead of being the focal point, it has become just the pilot light of a movement that is going to be transformational. We've basically built an ecosystem with our partnerships of how to change the system of how to engage people in a much bigger way, how to promote action on the local level through interacting with people that are in need. It's a hopeless feeling knowing that you have to rely on someone else. So people that are living with that for years, some people are on dialysis for 20 years. And so living through that hopelessness, we as Christians are called to be the hands and feet of Jesus. So there's a whole community out there that needs to be ministered to. So this has grown into something much bigger. What we didn't anticipate is that people would reach out to us while this process of building a movie infrastructure and a nonprofit infrastructure. At the same time, they're going to reach out to us and they're going to say, hey, I need a kidney. Can you help me? And so now we start doing events in local areas just to educate their peers.
Yeah.
And every single time there's been a response of how can I donate a kidney? So that I should have said it differently. May 5th, we have miracle number 14.
Brother, I mean, all I'm hearing is ripple effect and ripple effect and ripple effect. For the Christian leaders that are listening, I feel like the testimony of some of this story is you can't underestimate the ripple effects of a moment of obedience. And when we live in that, and those radical moments of obedience result in just transformational change for our good, right, in us,
Yeah.
and strengthening our faith, and honestly, I would say experiencing some of the greater joy that Jesus offers us, but to the benefit of others. I mean, you're telling this story, and I'm reflecting, going, man. Not only did he experience something, you had the wisdom, the God given heart and vision to see. Wait a second, it's the power of story
Yeah.
that compels people. I think it's a really biblical concept. I think that's why Jesus told stories.
Parables. Yeah.
I mean, it's what it is. I think
Yeah.
that's how he communicated for a reason, because I think God made our hearts that way. But when you described someone sitting on dialysis for 20 years, all I can picture is the guy sitting outside the pool waiting for the waters to
Yeah.
stir up
Yeah.
over and over and over again. And he keeps going and he keeps trying, and somebody's always beating him until finally Jesus shows up. And we know, as Christians, we are given the great privilege and calling to be his ambassadors,
Yeah.
right? To be his messengers, his sent ones. And what you're describing is something that could be revolutionary for people, where we can come alongside and say, hey, here's this thing that I have, and God gave me extra.
Yeah. You know, in the Old Testament, there's this term as part of Passover called mitzvah,
Okay.
and it means gift. And so, the Jewish community embraces that as a command, and their scripture is our Old Testament. It's our scripture
Right,
too.
right, yeah.
And their belief, correctly so, is that our greatest command is to give a gift, and their greatest is life. And so, when the one way that I look at this is, it is a command from God for us to be able to help give life or protect life in any way we can. So the last thing I will ever do is go ask someone, hey, will you give a kidney? God is calling you to give a kidney. That's not my call.
Right.
But I believe that there are literally hundreds of thousands of people out there that, if they know this need, that there will be a conviction. Is this something I'm called to do?
Wow.
And so that's all we want to do, is create an awareness. So now we are creating the largest awareness campaign that's ever been done of the need for live kidney donation. And it's also a call for us as Christians,
Yeah.
as people of faith, to consider, is this something that I'm called to do? And there's a lot of people that aren't medically able to do it, but they can help promote
Sure.
and raise awareness so that those that are can be aware of it.
Wow. Man, this is absolutely incredible. I love the heart behind it. It's a heart driven by a love for people, a love for the Lord. I can see your joy, and that sense of, man, God's on the move, and He's
Yeah.
on the move in a powerful way through the midst of this. Real quickly, we've talked a little bit. Man, this is a regular need in our country and around the world.
Yep.
A consistent need. We talk about wanting to have 100,000 people engage in this. It's bold and it's exciting. We've talked a little bit about how God works through the power of story, and how this is an incredible story that you guys are telling in a theatrical way. It's not
Right.
a couple of guys out back. It's
No.
a real crew
It
coming
is.
together and putting this together. If somebody wanted to take some kind of a step,
Yeah.
right? I'm thinking of my church, right? What would I even do? Like, is this something where I should do a showing in my church? Like, is there like group movie tickets? Where would I go to find information as you guys are helping to just spread the word about this incredible movement that God's opened the door for?
So our information hub is our website.
Okay.
And it's End the Weight, END,
Okay, and
endtheweight.net.
okay,
All right. And so there's opportunities for people we want to engage with churches. So we're establishing what's called In the Weight chapters.
Okay.
And we're going to establish these all over the country. So when people see the movie, or they just hear about the movement, they have an opportunity to go on the website and they can sign up to, hey, I want to open a chapter in my church, in my community. We want it to be laity driven. And so then and we have the template in place to instruct and teach them to how to run this organization. And the churches or the groups, it could be civic clubs, they can design it however they see fit to also go out and help the shut-ins or help those that are homeless in their community. But it's basically an opportunity in a structured way to be the hands and feet of Jesus, to give a ride to someone that needs to go to dialysis. Let them know there's a community that loves you. So it's also an opportunity for churches to evangelize and disciple, so they can invite them to come to the church. This is an In the Wait church. So we've had people from Alabama, from Atlanta, from Buchanan that have come to my church at Old Camp because they've heard about this movement.
Wow.
And they show up and say, hey, I need a kidney. And we'll pray over them.
Yeah.
And we've been able to help some find kidneys. And we're actively through our social media putting their message out there and their need. So, but somebody may say, well, I just want to help too. So through our website, we're able to connect people that just want to help logistically with transportation or meals or whatever. We will tag their information and it'll go to the nearest chapter. And so they're able to engage there. We absolutely would love for churches and faith communities to, when the movie comes out, to buy up tickets and go to the movies. You never know when one person in your congregation or in your community feels that conviction.
Yeah.
So it's all of that will come out later. We expect the movie to be released later this year, fall of 26.
Fall of 26. Okay.
Yep. And so we welcome people reaching out to us through our website.
Okay.
Email info@inthewait.net
Okay.
or randy@inthewait.net. They both come to the same place.
Yeah.
And so we have a team that will help connect them and line it up. But we also, if someone comes onto the website and they're like, I want to donate a kidney. So now we've partnered with a group called the Alliance for Paired Kidney Donation.
Oh, okay.
So they're connected with dozens, I think 60 to 80 transplant centers across the country that are high-yielding transplant centers. They provide lost wages for donors. Donors don't pay a penny for all the testing. If nothing else, you'll find out if there's anything going on that you need to know about it at no cost.
There you go. Wow.
So they provide all the transportation to and from the hospital, usually 2 trips. One is for a workup, and then the other is for the actual transplant.
Wow.
They handle all the costs for everything, and they will try to maximize the number of life saves through kidney chains for everyone. So they recognize the benefit of partnering with us. We recognize, we want to plug into what's going to yield the most kidney, most life saved. And so it's just a win-win for the faith community, and the blessing that you receive from just being able to. Had a person in our church that was dying of cancer, and once a week I gave him a ride to the cancer center, and the fellowship, the bond that we grew was tremendous.
Yeah.
Just on that ride back and forth once a week. So that opportunity for us to not just write a check as a church member, or as a Christian, as a follower of Christ, but to engage in relationship.
Yeah.
It's sort of like those collapsible camper cups. You remember those?
Yeah.
That slide up? So it's like we feel like our role as a Christian, being full, is this much, and then once we get to that point, God says, "Oh, hold on, there's another level here,"
another level.
and He just keeps expanding the cups.
Wow.
And so as we engage with fellowship and service to other people, the blessing is more of ours.
Wow.
Those who have the opportunity to let Him work through us than it is even those who are receiving the blessing. That's been my experience.
Randy, man, I love the bold vision. It's exciting. It's wonderful to see. And Christian leaders, I just want to let you know, I think God is looking for men and women who live and lead from a heart of visionary leadership, who want to overcome obstacles, mobilize the body of Christ in order to reach the nations for Christ. And The Wait is an example of that kind of incredible leadership. Randy, I'm so thankful to hear how God is working through your life, to see that lived out faithfully. And I know you want to point all the glory to God, which is where it's deserved.
Yeah.
And yet, it's the testimony of the life and the story you're living right now that inspires and encourages so many. So thank you so much for your faithfulness. Leaders, if you want to find some incredible resources that'll help you along that path, check out endthewait.net. You can learn more about what God's doing through that movement and that energy. And if you want to find other leadership resources, I want to encourage you, check out iliteam.org. There you'll discover not just visionary leadership, but the 8 core values of the most effective Christian leaders. And Randy, if you've got time, I'd love to stick around and talk about how you moved from a story into a vision that's becoming a reality. Man, there are Christian leaders all around who are trying to figure that out every week. We'd love to unpack that with you.
Sure. Glad to do it.
Sounds great, man.